Welcome to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are on the Biz Gone Social podcast, and I'm so glad to be here. And my promise to you, as always, is I want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that will energize your business and your social media marketing and help you stay social. After all, don't you want to be the business that everyone's talking about? I know I do. And I am so stoked to have Saraphina Churchill with me. And she has a business called Images by Saraphina. And tell me a little bit more about your business and what you do.
Hi, thank you. I'm Saraphina Churchill. I'm the owner-operator of Images by Saraphina, which ultimately is a virtual art department for small businesses who don't have one in-house. I offer photography if you are geographically close to me, and graphic design no matter where you are in the world. And I can help make sure that your brand is a matching set, both in print and online.
Awesome. And tell me a little bit about what separates you from other graphic designers.
Well, I started as a photographer, so everything to me is a picture, and I see that image laid out before I start. The graphic design came in a little later for me in my business, and that to me, being able to know the layout of a photo and whether or not you need it for the piece you're trying to communicate with in a visual way, I just feel like all communication is visual to some extent. And that can really set me apart, is that I didn't start in graphics. I started in photography and moved over. So that can really help.
Yeah. And I always feel that people who are skilled in photography, they see things a little bit different than those people who do graphic design and never worked in photography before.
I see the frame before I see anything else.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Do you, what made you decide? So here you are, you have your graphic design business, but what made you decide to go into this business opposed to working for a company? What was the deciding factor?
I have worked in the print industry. I've worked in advertising and marketing for several years in different ways, in different spaces. And I've learned a lot along the road. What made me want to go solo is that I found most of the time you were stuck on one side of that aisle or the other. You were either in the photography space or the graphic design space, but those two services marry well. And especially in marketing, if you know you've got both covered by one vendor, it's just so simple. So when I'm working with a small business, rather than hiring two creative vendors, they can hire one, get all of that services under one roof. And I get to play in both sides of the aisle, which is what I've always wanted to do. So that's what made me go out on my own.
That's awesome. And what else do you enjoy about being in business for yourself?
The freedom to create my schedule. I will meet a deadline. I, again, worked in the print industry. You meet your deadlines or you die. So not a problem. I'm happy to meet a deadline. If I've got to stay up till 2 a.m. to do it, I will. But if I don't need to start till 10, that's great too. I mean, the getting out of that 9 to 5 space and being able to create your own schedule and still deliver to your clients no matter what. But, hey, I need a screen break. I'm going to walk away for a minute, and I'm not wasting my boss's dollar because it's my time. That's the thing that I really love about it.
Absolutely. That's what I love about being in business for myself and I don't have to be in this little cubicle for 8 hours. I can get up and go for a walk, or I can, ride my bike or whatever. I have a question for you. So, I have the people who are listening to this podcast are other business owners or people who are thinking of going into business for themselves. What would you say your biggest challenge of doing your business is?
Me personally, or in general?
You personally, what's your biggest challenge?
So I am a perfectionist, and I don't charge by the hour. I don't charge by the number of drafts. I charge by the client now loves it. they've gotten their deliverable, that's when I bill. So I do run into troubles where I end up spending a lot of extra time trying to make something perfect. And I had to learn done is better than perfect, or like listen to the client. If the client is like, yeah, that's great, I need to stop talking and deliver that product to my clients so that they're happy and they can move on with it. That was the most challenging thing for me, was getting out of my own perfectionist headspace.
Yeah, that's a big problem with so many business owners is that they can't get out of that space. And I know, I'm not known as being a perfectionist, but sometimes there's just these things called get started choices. So you can just get started. And then once you get started, it's like, okay, it may not be perfect, but you can kind of make your way to awesome in the way that you do things. So it's like, yeah, it's interesting. You are in sort of the same space I am, and we see a lot of different kinds of graphics out there, and we see a lot of different people trying to do graphics out there. And what would you say could be harmful to like doing it yourself as opposed from hiring a graphic designer?
Well, the trouble with DIY, if you're not an image person or a creative professional and you're just, looks good to me kind of thing, the problem with DIY is if you're picking a template that you found online, whether it's, in a program you're using that you found online or just in general, you searched it. If you found it, so can your competitor. And it may look great to you. And then you post it or whatever, you use it somewhere. And then you realize that 3 other people in the same industry are using that exact same thing in the same target area you're working in. So that's, to me, the concern with DIY is if you haven't made it custom, you haven't really looked at the market and figured out how to stand out. That can be a danger zone for DIY graphics.
I can't think of, I used to there was this client I worked for where I had to get stock photos. And one of the companies, I forget if it was Shutterstock or some other iStock or something like that. One of them offered a section called new and not popular or something like that. And I actually used to always go to that because when I used one of the popular images, you're right, you would see them pop up and hey, that's my photo. But it's not, because it's stock photo and anybody can use it as long as you paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting that you said that, because I was like, wow, that's so true.
You'll notice it on holidays, right? If you scroll through Instagram or Facebook right around a holiday, and everybody's holiday post looks pretty much the same. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And I was just going to tell you this one thing. There's this company out there, it's called Fiverr, right? Where you can get people to do it for $5. So it's so funny because so when I first started out in business, I was a business coach. So I literally I was just starting out. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on anything, but I just wanted to make some really quick get started choices so I could actually get clients and not worry about all the little things. So I had this company do my logo. Actually, I was shifting out of, because my business coaching, I had a graphic designer. Very good, great logo. She captured what I wanted. But then I did Fiverr for my Biz Gone Social for the first time, and it was okay. And I actually kind of liked it, but it was all right. It wasn't something I fell in love with. But then later on, I rebranded. I wanted to, stand out a little bit more. And I had somebody design my logo, a graphic designer, and literally it was a night and day difference. Mm-hmm. Because I got a style guide, which the Fiverr person didn't give me. So I had all my hex codes. I had my fonts. I had everything that was included in that package that I got. And it was so worth it. It really was. And so what I tell people is there's some people say, oh, just go to Fiverr and get your logo. I said, no, you're not going to go to a graphic designer and get your logo, because you can get so much of a better quality graphic than you're going to do from Fiverr. And then you always have to.
Oh, go ahead.
No, and then you always have to like you automatically assume you're going to get like the pink version or the transparent version and the EPS version. And you don't get all those. And also different versions with some with with your logo and your caption on the bottom. I'm going blank of what you call it now.
Tag. Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's
tag.
exactly what
Thank you.
Say is they give you one file. You get one. And to someone who's not in the industry, right? Like I needed a logo. I got my logo. I'm all set until you go to use it. And you realize where that logo needs to go, because you're going to brand everything everywhere, because it's important. And then you can't use that file type in half the things you want to use it for. And that Fiverr person, good luck trying to find them again and getting them to give you all the different file types.
Yeah, and then they have all these, upsell, like you can get these files for $20 or whatever. But it's interesting, and it's just like the logo itself did not do good on photo images. And so my logo does. And plus with it came my branding of colors, which is very important. I mean, you've got to know your colors and you got to understand colors, like what certain colors mean, why you wouldn't want to use, like, I'm not a red person anyways, but why you would use red or why you wouldn't use red. I mean, a graphic designer knows all that. They know what's going to look good once you're branded and once they get your voice and everything. So yeah, I mean, it's good stuff. Okay, so I'm known as the quickest podcast on earth here, but my last question to you would be for all those people out there that are thinking of going into business for themselves. So this is general. It's like, what is one piece of advice that you would give them that would help them succeed?
Well, honestly, is get some folks that you can use as a sounding board. So if you don't have business partners, or if you don't have that logical, for lack of a better term, a board of directors already, find them. Because if you're doing the solo thing, even if you're the world's most introverted introvert, you can't literally do it all on your own. And so if you have a few sounding boards, people you trust, that you can be like, okay, before I go crazy, let me run this by you. What do you think? That is so valuable, to just know that you've got a few people in your corner that you can just use as a sounding board.
Absolutely. And I think you hit it. You hit it, because you can't do it alone. You really can't, no matter who you are. It's just that, because what you think sometimes what you think is the right way to go is absolutely the wrong way. And someone else can say, no, I tried that. It didn't work. And here's why it didn't work. So great advice. So like I always ask everybody else who comes on to my podcast is, if somebody needs graphic help or needs to rebrand or brand, how would they get in touch with you?
Well, I have a website, imagesbysaraphina.com. And when you go to that website, there's a tab that's called Stay in Touch. And it is every possible way to communicate with me. And I meet people where they're at. If you're an email person, great. If you want to message me on LinkedIn, awesome. If you want to get on the phone or get on Zoom, I'm all in. So whatever is your form of communication that you love, it's on there, and it tells you how to get to me.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you again for joining me on this podcast. And
thank you for having me. This was great.
And I will put all your information on the bottom of the social media posts that I do with the podcast when it comes out. And literally, if anybody needs anything or you have any questions, you still have questions, you can always contact me at Lorraine@bizgonesocial.com. And until next week, I'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. Find us on Instagram @BizGoneSocial for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.